The initiative, Athletes in the Arts, is a collaborative effort initiated by the American College of Sports Medicine, the Performing Arts Medical Association, and Art Entrepreneurship Institute at Loyola University in New Orleans. And we have several more collaborators now that have become part of our effort to correlate the concept of wellness, which has really been permeated in the sports medicine field, but has been somewhat lacking in performing arts. Although over the past year, I've had the opportunity of traveling to several conferences, including the National Music Teachers Association meeting, who've already established a program of wellness in their group, and in fact they require certification now in wellness as part of their credentialing procedures. In the past, however, the artists have never considered themselves really athletes, and now the understanding is that while the athletic endeavors are usually involved the use of larger muscles, performers, musicians, vocalists tend to require the use of the smaller muscles in their fingers, in their vocal cords, and in combination with the use of coordinated behaviors in their brain. And that the intensity of their efforts, the intensity of their training, is essentially comparable to an athlete performing events in track and field or football or baseball. The lessons have been learned in athletic medicine as to how you can maintain a tone of wellness and how you can prevent injury and how you can condition for a specific event. And those lessons have now need to be translated into the performing arts arena in order to achieve the same outcomes that the sports medicine arena has achieved. We've had the opportunity to work in collaboration with the Music Teachers Associations, with the American Association of Schools of Music. We've established an initial baseline for auditory protection for musical students. There's an initial paper that has been a policy that has been developed and is currently on review through that organization. We've had the opportunity now to engage in wellness programs at the international level with music educators. The program will be present next July in Greece, and a special interest group specifically related to wellness in performing artists has been formed at that meeting. They're asking us to submit papers and provide personnel to help educate music educators into the concepts of wellness. We also have several efforts coming up to launch the Athletes in the Arts, including participation at the Satchmo Festival in New Orleans, and then hopefully a launch probably sometime in the fall for the full Arts and Athletes program. The website is up and running, and the future looks very bright. Certainly the hearing issue is our primary focus at the present time, and that's advancing fairly quickly. Wellness, again, is just in its infancy, really, in the performing arts area, and the adoption of the Exercise is Health initiative from the American College of Sports Medicine would certainly be something that needs to be incorporated in the near future into the performing arts field, both at the curriculum level of the performing artists, and then long term in the professional area as well. Nutrition. Nutrition has never really been addressed in terms of performing artists, and this is an area that has a substantial deficit that we really need to focus on. It has been addressed in the dance area, but it probably needs to be a little bit more emphasis in terms of proper hydration and dietary control, rather than some of the eating disorders and other issues that some of the dancers are facing here. Yeah, there are actually a number of research studies that are looking at biofeedback techniques in terms of trying to relax the posture and maximize your ability to perform long periods of time in those odd positions that that some of these instruments require. There are several efforts on board to modify the instruments, so musicians who have certain injuries or certain deficiencies can adapt instead of modifying the posture of the individual, you can modify the instrument to fit the individual, particularly people who've had injuries or disabilities. There are three-dimensional force analyses that are being performed, three-dimensional space analyses to try and minimize the effort that's required to use an instrument or to perform a particular piece. So all of those technologies are certainly available. The problem is they're expensive, and unfortunately they're limited to a small number of participants right now. There's no mass disc that you could buy, put in your computer, and learn how to play the violin, in your house. So, but that technology is probably on its way. Focal dystonia is the exact cause and etiology is still unknown, and that's an area of active research in performing arts medicine. We think it's an overload of the brain. We think what happens is because so many tasks are required for a lot of these musical pieces and instruments that a portion of the brain that transmits signals from the muscles and the tendons up into the motor cortex, or the upper part of the brain that kind of controls those motions, and then comes back down through a processing through the central part of the brain. That part of the brain gets overloaded to the point where it short circuits. It just loses control. And so in order to prevent injury, it kind of shuts down a portion of that process and prevents the person then from using that part of the extremity that normally he would use in a piece. So for example, if you're playing in a focal dystonia, it's sometimes limited to one or two fingers. It's sometimes limited to specific pieces of music. It's not always the same task or the same repetitious activity. But suddenly the fingers will cramp and the person is unable to use, say, the fourth or fifth finger when they're playing a keyboard or a violin. And there have been functional MRI studies that have looked at the signal and the activity in the brain, and those people who have functional dystonias do have a different functional MRI than those who don't. One of the areas in the brain that's called the amygdala appears to enlarge in patients who have focal dystonias. Interestingly enough, the use of antidepressants will sometimes shrink that area. That hasn't been used as a therapeutic element yet, but that may be some research for the future development of treatment in focal dystonias.
Is there any suggestion on how to avoid it?
At this point, there really isn't, because it seems to occur in either a practice session or a performance. It comes unexpectedly. The best instructions that people are given these days is to practice with intensity, but recover and don't overdo it. It seems to be that the longer you do it, the more intense you do it, and the more repetition of the same activity will tend to accelerate the process of developing focal dystonias. At this point, there really isn't, because it seems to occur in either a practice session or a performance. It comes unexpectedly. The best instructions that people are given these days is to practice with intensity, but recover and don't overdo it. It seems to be that the longer you do it, the more intense you do it, and the more repetition of the same activity will tend to accelerate the process of developing focal dystonias.